So sometimes I notice that people argue amongst each other. And I see in the arguing process much potential for refinement and for building strength for each of us human beings in the collective. I often see arguments as being not so much attempt together attempt at finding the together truth, or to finding a stable melding of two somehow overlapping or conflicting desires, which I feel it ideally is. There are two overlapping desires, they are conflicting, so finding a melding of them is an ideal scenario. Like finding a way for them to, well, maybe to coexist. The tendency I see is for people to attempt rather to dominate over the other point of view, over the other's desires. I have my desires. A common intent from one of the people arguing is to have my desire fulfilled and to not have your desire fulfilled, or to at least, like, I want my desire fulfilled. I don't care if your desire is fulfilled, but if my desire is fulfilled, that's all fine with me. And so that attitude can be kind of strict. Sometimes I even see that during the argument, enough emotional friction and irritation is created that having the other person not meet their desires becomes the person's desires. And then that's worse, because then there's active conflict, and the desires cannot coexist anymore. One of them must defeat the other if such antagonism is created in the argument. And that is not necessary, I feel. This antagonism, I feel, is often induced by the ineffectiveness of the communication that is happening. Because then in communication, and specifically in arguing and in discussion of different perspectives, there's often there's the dynamic of person A expressing their point of view, attempting to emphasize the truth of this point of view, to emphasize the value of this point of view. Like, look, my point of view, A's point of view, it's valuable. So they can say, they could even start with an attitude of this is what must be. But say they just presented, like, okay, this is my point of view, and this is why it has value. And then the person B, a common reaction is well, first of all, a common reaction is to disagree. If one is very set and very strict and somehow blind-minded, tunnel-visioned, narrow-minded, and only feeling that my desires are the ones that are important, then one will reject whatever is not my desire. B can easily reject A's desire. So there tends to be a lot of disagreement. That's how disagreements and arguments occur. More importantly, though, not just going to that extreme, it seems to me that it is often we people have the tendency to map, to interpret one's person's, to interpret and to express our point of view or the other points of view as a binary agreement or disagreement. Disagreement? Where do I want agreement? Like disagreement. Disagreement is left. Disagreement and agreement. And I find in myself there can be emotional attachments to it. Let me bring this down. There. There can be strong or just simply very deep and deeply stuck emotions attached to these agreements and disagreements. The first thing to note about simple agreement disagreement is that it is it seems primitive to simply consider these two interpretations, these two meanings. And yes, I mean, people do not just say I agree or I disagree or yes, no. There's usually a lot more words that come with it, a lot more emotions also that comes with it. They, however, what I notice is that often it is the case that as I said it from the beginning, sometimes there is not the understanding that perhaps there is a mixture of the truths that can create a more harmonic truth, or a mixture of the points of view from which both can benefit, from whose communication both can benefit from learning or from focus. 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 Oh, yeah, that's focus. Sometimes it's not considered that people can actually learn or actually listen to the other person. Often because these emotions are there. There tends to be an emotion of repelling loss, repelling losing, repelling being proven wrong. The emotional significance that we attach to being wrong is to being wrong, is to being proven wrong, to being proven what is it? To having one's own truth be disproven or to be underestimated, that is often associated to a feeling of unworthiness. As in, I presented my point of view, and there was another person that point of view presented that improved upon it, that contained it and proposed a better solution. There can be an emotional attachment to unworthiness, to shame, to feeling like, oh, but that was my truth, but you had a better one, and now mine is not as worthy. Oh, okay, I guess it. And then one can either do that and retreat into one's own a little bit of shame, if there is shame, or to become fanatical in my point of view and attempt to continue to emphasize that my truth is the truth, while ignoring the truth of that the other person is presenting. Not assuming that one particular one is that A or B is right. Then my point is, often our responses to these arguments tend to have emotional attachments, and more importantly, unconscious emotional attachments. And when this happens, we are not truly choosing. And we are being rather somewhat fanatical in our efforts to be right, in our efforts to not be wrong, in our efforts to be worthy. And the specific dynamic I see that is usually happens when there's an argument and there's not an agreement. Well, then someone says something, and then I disagree about it, and I want to prove my point of view. So one person just presents their point of view, and it's like, okay, this is my point of view, this is my point of view, and the other person was like, often does not listen to what is the point of view, but rather just interprets, oh, that point of view, that is not my point of view, this is my point of view, that's my point of view, and because of that thing, I'm just going to state that, and it will state it. And then the other person can say no, but then the other person can react in the same way, not even listening to what the other person was and saying like, oh, maybe it can be the same, but look at that from a different angle. But they often, when there's an unconscious emotional attachment, the idea, the reaction, because it's fast, it often only takes time to realize, not to read into the intricacies of what is being presented, but rather just to say, oh, that thing, that's different. That's different. This is the thing. This is the thing that I'm talking about. And then the other person, no, this is the thing. No, this is the thing. Without truly listening and attempting to find a melding, a merging of the truths, a merging of the proposals that can harmonize with both of them. Even more, it can create synergy between people, as we know, as I believe, as I posit, that in a group, coordination in between units in a group can often lead to improvements of the power of the abilities of the collective. And that's very valuable. And that requires that merging of truths, perspective, let's merge them. Oh, okay, now we understand each other. Okay, now it's focused. Good. Yes. Agreement and disagreement. Often I see people just using agreement and disagreement. The more narrow-minded one is focused on trying to present my truth, the less one listens to the other, and the more one reacts emotionally, attempting to prove oneself worthy, without realizing that having my truth be somewhat modified into the real, and into elucidating the real truth, does not necessarily take worth away from me. Even though at some point we've ingrained this as human beings, either societally or genetically, I don't know. We've ingrained that if I have something to offer and it is rejected, then there's a feeling of unworthiness. It's an emotional reaction. I feel it is worth seeing that entity within us that produces these reactions. because that allows us to see what is there, feel what is there, and by feeling it with conscious intent, feel and dissolve the fear that is buried underneath that behavior. The fear of not being accepted, the fear of not being worthy. What I'm trying to get to is that there is infinite space of perspectives and truths and arguments and logics and examples in between pure disagreement and pure agreement. There is limitless potential for truth to be found, for balance to be found between extremes of disagreement and agreement. And I feel they are unconscious emotional reactions that propel us to either extreme. If we are feeling like our truth is right and we feel somewhat dumb that we can dominate over the other person, then our emotional reaction can be to say, no, I disagree, and I will put my truth here, and the more strongly my own truth is proven, the more worthy I am in society. That's the emotional the emotional entities axiom. And in contrast, sometimes one feels deference to another person, or respect, or fear of the other person because of superior rank or such, and then one's emotional reaction, even perhaps from fear of the other person, or from fear of being proven wrong, one can just also emotionally react to just say, no, okay, I agree, it's fine, it's okay, it's good. And allowing, even if one has information that would be useful to know and could perhaps improve the situation when looked at from both perspectives. Yeah, I feel such emotional reactions can tend to move us from one side to another. Did I change sides again? Agreement, disagreement? Again, left disagreement. It can make us shift towards, it was the opposite from what I did. It can make us shift all the way if we are like, oh yes sir, yeah, whatever I want, or I don't want, or feeling lazy, I don't want to argue, then we could just go into the extreme of agreeing and be like, yeah, whatever, do whatever. Or yes sir, of course what you're saying is true. I know nothing. Or if I'm feeling conflicted, or I'm feeling like, no, this has to be done, I'm feeling fanatical about it, then I can go to a full disagreement. Being like, no, this is what I want, and what I want is the thing. My perspective is the truth. Both feel narrow-minded to me. Both feel narrow-focused. There's simply a narrow focus of it. All that I'm caring about is the perspective I have right now, and it signifies a certain inflexibility in our own being. Because an inflexible building, an inflexible structure, is not easily tolerant to changes. to something merging into it. A castle, and then suddenly there comes a house, and it wants to be part of the castle. It's kind of hard to merge them because they're both solid things. How do you merge solid things? If the structures are inflexible, then it will be hard to put them together, to merge them. And then on the other extreme, you have two bodies of water. You have two rivers coming along, and they are very, very flexible, very, very mergeable. And then upon contact, they will just agree and meld and merge. And then somewhere in the middle, there are the cells that sometimes the cells merge with each other. I think sometimes they do, or at least they enclose each other. Yeah, I believe cells with their semi-permeable membranes, they can sometimes meld in, meld out, adjust to each other's shape. And this flexibility is it is an ability. It is an ability to flex our own boundaries. Our own boundaries, and in this case, our boundaries of beliefs, our boundaries of ideas and of concepts, our boundaries of intent. Like if I have an intent that is strong, and then another person comes with another intent, the ability to modify my own intent to my benefit as well, by seeing another intent that seems conflictive, it takes effort. And it will take the effort of feeling, of combining both perspectives at the same time. And that seems hard to do. It seems implausible to happen when one is trapped in an unconscious emotional reaction cycle of either by default agreement or by default disagreement. They both will not allow such merging, because they both simple agreement and disagreement, they both reject one of the sides. They both reject one of the truths. Yes. Because they just say, okay, no, you're right. But you're fully right means I'm fully wrong. At least the attitude of the argument, as it is, not as in the truths themselves, but in the attitude of the argument. Meaning, yes, you're right, and we're done. Also kind of rejects my own truth. Whereas when I disagree and I'm just like saying, no, this is my truth, disagreement by default rejects the truth of the other. And they both leave leftovers, because they both leave some truth that is unsolved, some truth that is unprocessed. And that need not be the case. Even if one proposal is found to be a correct solution, the ideal solution between the two options, if there is such a thing, the ideal solution, even if one of them is found to be the ideal solution, the process of conceptualizing both truths simultaneously and realizing that one of the proposal's benefits subsumes the other is valuable. It is the process that that processes that truth. It is the process that melds the perspectives so that there is harmony, that there is progress, benefit, profit. And I repeat, such a melding, such a simultaneous holding and conceptualizing is possible when unconscious emotional reactions are softened. When they are softened enough that they do not push us one side or pull us to the other, and we feel unable to go in one somewhere in the middle where our truth actually is. Because the case is that our truth lies somewhere in this spectrum, somewhere. The true truth, the real truth. And it requires, I posit it requires emotional strength, emotional cleansing too, to stand with clarity in my truthful perspective, stand in the perspective I offer, in the perspective I embody, in the perspective I bring, I am the messenger of, and to standing it truthfully. Even though there is often fear within us of being proven unworthy, or there is an urge, a zeal to be proven worthy, or there is enmity towards the other person. Standing in the strength of ourself, somewhere in between agreement and disagreement, it requires some emotional strength. Yes, I would say just as it requires physical strength to learn how to stand on my own truth as a human being. It requires developing the strength of these legs. It requires emotional strength to standing my own truth, despite there being attractions and repulsions to certain sides. There is the fear there that sometimes it's saying, what if I'm going to prove? Sometimes I have felt, what if I'm going to be proven wrong? What if I was right? Oh, what if everyone just laughs at me because I didn't have the right? Oh, maybe I'll just agree. I'll just agree. Focus. Or with an emotional reaction, with a voice that says, you must be right, he's wrong, you know you don't like him, he's never right, and your girl is not going to like you if he is proven right, then she's going to like him better, and then she's going to go away with him, and you're going to have nothing, and you're going to be proven wrong, and your status is going to diminish. No. Is this disagreement? Whatever. To one extreme. Our emotions may tend to try to wave us one side and another. We are in the waves of our emotional being. And can develop the strength, the resilience, and most importantly, the ease, the emotional ease, if we clean ourselves of the fears and shames we have accumulated, and prides and angers and hurts. And practice identifying what our truth is, understanding what our truth is, clarifying, refining, knowing it truly, and expressing it in the world. And when we have developed this strength, we have discovered the enormous space that exists in between simple binary disagreement and agreement. Somewhere in the middle lies our truth.